Good evening, and welcome to the last night of hearing, we think. The City Hall has a cutoff of 9:30. I don't expect we're going to be here for 4 hours, but that would be the outside parameter of when we can stay here. If anyone intends to speak during public comment, if you would just sign the sign-up sheet up there. And once Attorney Parks is done with his presentation, we'll take the public comment in order of the sign-up. Any questions? Okay. Parks?
Great. Can you hear me okay? So we'll call Tony Nenna as our witness.
Yeah. Good evening, sir. Could you raise your right hand and do you solemnly swear under the pains and penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in the matter now at hearing shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Would you state your name and spell it
I do.
for the stenographer, please?
Sure. Anthony Nenna. My last name is Nenna, Nenna.
Thank you.
Great, thanks.
Attorney Parks?
Mr. Hartman, would you mind calling up Mr. Nenna's resume? You'll see it under Nenna Docs. And I assume, are we sticking, Mr. Hearing Officer, with the same process in terms of not qualifying the witnesses? Okay. So I just want, this is already in the CRMC record. I just want to make sure that it is in as an exhibit. This is Mr. Nenna's resume. So Mr. Nenna, can you just briefly state your job title and description?
Yes. I'm currently the owner and principal engineer at On-Site Engineering.
Okay. And what do you do as the owner and principal engineer of On-Site Engineering?
I do multiple projects with residential, commercial, a lot of CMC permitting, DEM permitting.
Okay.
And yeah.
About how many applications do you think you've assisted with for CRMC?
Probably over 100.
Okay. And did you review any documents to prepare for this evening?
Yes, I did.
And what did you review?
I reviewed the 2 preliminary determinations that the applicant submitted to CRMC and CRMC's responses, the site plans that were prepared by Principi, and the staff report, and as well as the NRS Natural Resources report that done by Scott Rabideau.
Excuse me, Mr. Bennett, can everybody hear him? Yeah, could you just either put it closer or just speak up a little more?
Yes, I will.
Thank you very much.
Sorry.
And are you aware of what's colloquially known as the Red Book?
Yes, I am.
And what is that?
The Red Book is the CRMC's standards, regulations.
Thanks. And Mark, would you mind pulling up the proposed conditions plan? So you see up on the screen a document that was prepared by who you already mentioned, Mr. Principi, and it's a drawing titled The Proposed Conditions Plan. And is this one of the documents that you reviewed in preparation for tonight?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And using your experience as an engineer with CRMC permitting practice, can you describe for me, what if any issues are raised by this proposed conditions plan?
Well, first of all, there's a significant variance that they're requesting from the setbacks, buffer and setbacks. The driveway to the north and retaining wall, and there is some stormwater for this proposed roof. I can go through those items if you'd like.
Yeah, we'll come to the variance last. Let's talk about the drainage issues first. Can you talk about those?
Yes. So first, I when I reviewed the plans and the details for the stormwater control for the roof, I noticed a note that just said that there was fill material to be removed. I didn't see any test pit logs to document what the fill material consists of and what the kind of the sea horizon or original soils are and what the depths are, as well as groundwater, depth of groundwater.
And why is that of concern?
The soils are made to, or the stormwater is allowed to infiltrate into the soils. And depending on if they are like a sandier soil or a silty soil, it affects the infiltration rate. There was no infiltration data that was on the plans. So there was a detail of the gutter drains. So when the stormwater, underground stormwater system fills up, it overflows onto the surface.
And are these the sort of details that ordinarily you would include on plans for submission?
Yes,
You had also mentioned issues with the driveway. Can you detail those?
yes. So it's documented as a pervious driveway, and when I looked at the detail, it was crushed stone. I have under my personal opinion, that slope of 20% for the driveway is excessive. It'd be difficult to maneuver out of that without the vehicle losing traction, as well as in storm events, I'd be concerned about the crushed stone being washed out to the bottom of the driveway.
And what do you mean by a washout?
So the stone would be transported from the street level towards the backyard up against the proposed buffer.
And obviously, this is the proposed buffer that's meant to be significantly reduced, correct?
Yes,
Turning to the variance request, do you know what category application this is?
it's category B.
And what does that mean?
It's a CRMC council review, as well as asking for a significant variance request. Variant request.
Heightened standards,
I'm sorry.
heightened standards, heightened requirements.
Yes,
And you said you reviewed both Scott Rabidou's report and the staff report, correct?
yes.
And have you reached any of your own conclusions regarding these reports?
Yes, the staff report, I agree with that. It's an excessive request for the variance, reducing the buffer by almost 70%.
And do you recall what size buffer is required here?
It's a 50-foot buffer with a 25-foot setback, so 75.
And do you remember how small applicant proposes to shrink that buffer to in some places?
I believe it's 15 feet in some places.
And of that 25-foot setback, do you recall how far applicant proposes to shrink that to in some places?
I believe it's 10 feet.
And do you have any indication as to why applicant is seeking such a large variance?
Well, due to the size of the house and the shape of it.
Mark, can we pull up what was applicant's exhibit 1? It's in that same subfolder. Nope, that's objector exhibit I. Thanks, and we'll be able to zoom in on this as necessary, but we're seeing what's been previously marked as applicant's exhibit 1, and did you see this document as part of your review?
Yes, I did.
And just to be clear, you did not prepare this exhibit, correct?
No, I did not.
And do you know who did?
Principy Engineering.
And that would be the applicant's engineer?
Yes.
And do you recognize what this exhibit depicts?
Yes.
And what is that?
It's the houses along Washington Street, and on the top, it summarizes which houses, when they were built, the lot sizes, and the buffer zones that were established.
Now, do you know what year CRMC began regulating waterfront construction?
I believe it was 1971.
Okay. And using the dates that are on applicant's exhibit, can you tell how many of these houses were built after CRMC came into existence?
I believe there's 2 of the 12.
Okay. And do you know which two? We can zoom in if we need to.
The top left, 102 and 100, I believe.
That would be the two northernmost houses.
Yes.
And of those two houses that were built after CRMC came into existence, can you tell how far set back they are from the coastal feature?
According to the summary that's on below the picture, I believe the 102 is 66 feet. I can't make out what it's saying.
Yes.
Because it looks like 166 feet. Is that correct?
No, I think I'm sorry, 76 feet, right?
If I'm reading that right, 102 is 76 feet from the coastal feature and 100 is 66 feet from the coastal feature. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
So if we apply the 75-foot total setback that we're dealing with here, the 50-foot buffer and the 25-foot setback, does 102 meet that requirement?
Yes, it does.
And what about 100?
100 is only 66 feet of the 75.
And so that's
it's less.
okay. Like a 9-foot variance.
9 foot. Yes, that's correct.
So I think you said at the beginning you've been a part of more than 100 CRMC applications.
Yes.
And have you ever sought a variance as large as the one as applicant seeks here?
No.
And why not?
I've always tried to get my client to do the 50% because it's an easier process and it would be approvable.
So in your opinion as an engineer, this is not approvable?
No.
Now, there was some prior testimony regarding a large tree on the property, so I just want to ask you a couple questions about that. Have you visually inspected the property?
Yes, I have.
And Mark, you can go back to that photograph. And is this picture that we're showing you here, which is Objector's Exhibit I,
Yes.
is this this is the tree that I'm referring to when I ask you questions?
Yes, that's correct.
And this is the tree you saw when you inspected the property, correct?
Yes, it's correct.
And do you know what it is? What type of tree?
Not off the top of my head, no.
Mhm. No problem. As you know, as an engineer performing CRMC applications, is accounting for site conditions such as, you know, specimen trees something that you deal with?
Yes.
And what are your best practices to ensure their survival?
Usually I try to keep any digging or excavation away from the drip line or of the tree.
And do you think after your review of the drawings, is it your opinion that this application will preserve the tree?
No.
And why not?
Excavation for the foundation as well as excavation for the driveway would dig into the roots. Also, there's a proposed retaining wall along the northerly property line, which will impact the tree as well.
So given your review of the material and coupled with your own professional experience, have you reached an opinion to a reasonable degree of certainty as to whether applicant has satisfied the standards necessary to receive a variance?
No, I don't believe he did.
Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you. Mr. Nino, my name is Jay Lynch. I'm representing the applicant here. Just a few questions for you. Just going over the existing conditions. Is there a vegetative buffer along the coastal feature on the subject site?
No, it's a maintained lawn.
And are there any
Maintained lawn, yes.
water quality features on the subject site presently?
I didn't see any.
Now, have you handled any applications where you've had a historic structure on the site?
I've done a couple of them in Westerly.
Were those houses on the National Historic Register?
No, they were candidates.
Are you aware that the Trip House on the subject site is on the National Historic Register of Historic Houses?
Yes, I am.
And you're aware that that impacts the property owner's ability to modify the historic structure?
Yes.
You're aware that Mr. Principe has designed a vegetative buffer to be installed in the coastal buffer, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And that will be an improvement over the existing condition?
Yes, I think so.
That will provide a natural habitat on the subject site?
Yes.
And there presently is no natural habitat for wildlife on the subject site?
No.
You're not an arborist, are you?
No.
And just the existing conditions of the property, it slopes significantly from Washington Street down to the harbor, correct?
Yes. Yes.
Now, are you familiar with the general area on Washington Street?
Yes, I drove the site. Yeah.
Are you aware of any other properties on Washington Street that will have a vegetative buffer?
I only did a visual inspection from the street, so I didn't walk into the property to see the other properties.
Did you see any vegetative buffers from your visions, your view from the street?
Not from what I could have seen.
I don't have any further questions.
Just a couple of questions on redirect. You testified earlier that you're familiar with the CRMC Red Book regulations, correct?
Yes, I am.
Are you aware of any regulation that entitles an applicant to build a second house on a single lot?
No.
And Mr. Lynch just asked you some questions about vegetative barriers on other properties. Do you recall that?
Yes, I do.
Are you aware of anything in the CRMC variance standards that allows an applicant to compare his property to other properties in terms of satisfying those standards?
No, I'm not.
Okay, thank you. Nothing further.
One question. Mr. Nina, are you aware of any CRMC regulation prohibiting the construction of a second dwelling on the property?
No.
Thank you.
Anything else?
That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Mena.
Thank you.
So that is our only witness, the objector's only witness. So I believe from what we discussed earlier, it's public comment. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes. Attorney Lynch, could you hand me the sign-in sheet? We'll take it in order. Thank you very much. Again, we're going to, I don't see a lot of people seeking to make public comment, but we're gonna limit it to approximately 4 minutes. For good cause, we can go beyond that, but we'd like to keep it short and sweet. And if all you're going to testify to is what has already been brought up by a previous person, then you can just simply make that comment. We don't need to do repeated things, repeat the same things over and over. That having been said, Joanna Salvo?
JOANNA Okay, the significance of the historic Trip House is number one, it's on the National Historic Register. It is in a National Historic District. And there are national guidelines to rehabilitation and additional construction. The John Tripp House at 88 Washington is one of the most important surviving examples of 18th century colonial architecture in the state. Originally built around 1725 in Manton, Providence, it was moved to its current location in 1965. So one of the key features we're forgetting about is the Secretary of the Interior's guidelines to historic buildings and how they're cared for. The current owners are custodians and they have a responsibility to care for the building. Now, what they're doing is creating their own problem by getting this thing out 5 years. It could have been solved. So one of the guidelines to historic preservation is compatibility of
Excuse me, Ms. Salvo, you're reading from what guidelines? Could you,
the Secretary of the Interior's National Historic Rehabilitation Guidelines.
thank you.
So this district is registered in the Secretary of the Interior's collection of historic districts, and this happens to be their prime building in that district. It's older than the country. It's 300 years old. The country is 250. So the compatibility of an addition, if it's necessary for functional use, must be differentiated but harmoniously. And the design has to be compatible in material, scale, massing, and proportion. And that's literally all I have to say. If you look at the picture, the little tiny Tripp house over here, the addition is about 2 to 3 times larger. That is way outside of the guidelines. And that pretty much sums up my message.
Thank you, Ms. Salvo. If you just wait a minute, we want to see if either attorney has any questions for you.
I have a few questions,
Attorney Lynch?
Mr. Chair, Mr. Hearing Officer. Ms. Salvo, you were formerly a member of the Newport Historic District Commission, correct?
I was
Yes. And how long were you on that commission?
7 or 8 years.
And you're aware that the Newport Historic District Commission approved the proposed dwelling?
I am aware of that.
And are you also aware that the Rhode Island Historical Preservation and Heritage Commission also approved the proposed design?
If they did approve of it, but it's outside of the guidelines. Why that was done, we don't know. I'm only reiterating what the official Secretary of the Interior's guidelines are.
And you're aware that the Newport Historic District Commission uses those same guidelines?
Oh, yes.
Nothing further.
I just have a couple now. Miss Salvo,
Ms. Salvo, please.
may I just ask you a couple questions?
Yeah.
Thank you. Attorney Lynch asked you about the HDC's approval. Are you aware that that approval is the subject of a live appeal?
I am not. I have not followed the case clearly and, as well as I should have. The thing that has struck me all along is the proposed building, which I'm very familiar with, the floor plan and so forth, or the size, is outsized compared to what should be attached to the smaller building.
Thank you.
Thank you. Jim Madsen, am I pronouncing it right?
Again, my name's Jim Madsen. I am a member of the Point Association. I've been there for about 12 or 15 years. I'm also on the Historic District Commission. I'm currently the vice chair of the HDC. I've been on the commission now for probably 5 years. And I guess the reason I'm here, and I thought we were done with it, but I was at one of our Point Association meetings a week or so ago. And while the members of the association were at the meeting, we all got delivered this little flyer in our mailbox. So when I got home, I looked at it, and it really took me pause a little bit because there's things in there that I didn't quite agree with. And one of those really had to do with the role of the HDC and what we had approved, and then what the role of the city took on as the city council, right? So, so my view here, or my position here today, is really as a neighbor, a butter, and not necessarily and I don't represent the HDC here tonight, but I would just state that, when you look at the John Tripp house, the findings of fact that came from the preservation planner noted that the house was built in the 1725 or 20, in that era, as noted. However, it had been moved to Providence from another location, and then finally here. And when it was moved here, it was totally disassembled. Parts of it were reused, parts of it may not have been, and it was substantially reconstructed in 1972. Kind of in that era. So we looked at it in that vein, and initially, and quite frankly, while looking at it, when bringing that house to that site, had the HDC had approved that at the time, they probably would have denied it, right? Because it doesn't have the size, scale, and massing as everything else on the street, right? So, but be that as it may, it's there. It's there to stay, right? And when the new designs came out, and I worked with we as a HDC, worked with the applicants, at length. We had 5 or 6 meetings, with the applicant, and I think we came up with a pretty good design there, separating the Tripp house from the new house. But however, when that came about, it moved from restoration, renovation to new construction. The standards are different, right? It really, from an HDC perspective, the HDC can only speak to the size, scale, and massing. Does it fit the neighborhood? And it absolutely does. When you look at all the other houses, right? Even the big house they sent the first time was huge, right? We thought it was huge, right? But it still wasn't as large as some of on the street, and it's since been downsized considerably to, what I think is very tasteful for that lot, and should be there. So, but the reason it really took me pause was when it came to city council after our decision was made. Zoning made a decision as well. And I sent an email, the day after. I think it was referenced somewhere. I didn't look at all the information from the last week's meeting, but about a meeting in April of last year. It was our city council meeting. And at that meeting, I'll just read briefly the email I sent the city council. So I was extremely frustrated and disappointed leaving last night's city council meeting after the city council decision to provide the CRMC with a recommendation to deny the property owner a minor zoning variance in order to construct a new one. The Newport HDC and the Zoning Board of Review over the last 4 years held numerous hearings, reviewed volumes of documentation, and held multiple site visits. The HDC in particular negotiated with architects, owners, attorneys, experts, and abutters while keeping the city's ordinances, guidelines, policies, and standards and best interests of the city at the forefront of those decisions. Furthermore, at no time during the HDC discussions and hearings was the CRMC even a topic and focus, an area of focus as portrayed at the meeting last night. So to have the city council override the HDC and the zoning board of review decision in siding with an abutter whose sight line to the water may be obstructed or has some other personal issue, after he has been heard multiple times by the commission appointed by the city council, is extremely disheartening. It brings into question why we even have these commissions in the first place if the council in a 20-minute discussion can override all of our efforts. Please note, while I'm not speaking for the HDC or ZBR, I have been a commissioner on the HDC for the past 4 years. I suspect my fellow commissioners will feel in a similar fashion. I'm a resident of the Point and represent the Point as a city liaison. Thank you, Council Chair Holder, for your steadfast position that the city should remain neutral in such matters as suggested strongly by the city. So that was my view of it, that the city council didn't have a play in it, and it's not as historic as some may think. And I think it's very tasteful. I think variances of this type have been presented to the CRMC in the past, and obviously they're approved, they're all there, right? So that's it.
No question.
Attorney Lynn?
Just very briefly, Mr. Mattson, when you are sitting as a member of the HDC, do you consider the CRMC's standards for approval or variance?
Never, no.
Thank you.
We just, yeah, they're all in the on the website as to what we review them again.
Mr. Madsen, you said you're in a butter. What is your,
I said I'm a non-abutting
oh,
neighbor.
non-abutter?
I live on Poplar Street.
Thank you for your testimony.
You bet.
You read this? It's someone with confusing handwriting. Something Nigel Richard? I'm sorry. I'm very sorry.
Okay. I should have been a doctor.
I don't have the best.
Yes, thank you.
Could you state your name?
Sure. Nigel Richards.
Perfect.
Good evening, everyone. I'm speaking in support of the proposed development at 88 Washington. Newport is special because it's preserved history better than most any coastal city in America, for sure. But Newport also has never been frozen in time. And every generation has contributed to the city thoughtfully. And I believe that this process continues that tradition. And it is important to recognize that many of the neighboring homes cover significantly more of their lots than the proposed build, which further supports the idea that this project remains within the established character and development pattern of the neighborhood. I've owned 2 homes within 4 doors of each other in this neighborhood over 14 years, and I feel very strongly about the community and its future. What I understand that this project has gone through substantial review and revision, and the owners have made serious efforts to respect the historic character of the neighborhood while also improving and investing in the property. They've made changes, add recommendations. And I also think it's important to recognize that neighborhoods evolve over time in many ways. Landscapes change, homes are expanded, trees grow, views change, views are blocked. Views are obstructed. Architectural styles from different eras become part of the fabric of a neighborhood. None of us live in a perfectly preserved museum, so the goal should be thoughtful stewardship, fairness, and consistency. It's also worth noting that this proposed addition is relatively modest compared to many neighboring properties and fits comfortably within the existing scale and height character of the neighborhood, 2-3 houses down. What concerns me is when subjective preferences begin outweighing reasonable property rights and carefully reviewed design standards. If a project meets the city's guidelines and has been thoughtfully designed, I believe it deserves the support, even if not everyone personally prefers every aspect of it. I also want to say that I personally worked with the HDC during the renovation of my property on 2nd Street, and I came away with tremendous frustration, respect, and honor of the Commission's attention to detail and thoughtful oversight. And in my experience, they are far more knowledgeable than I am when it comes to preserving Newport's architectural integrity. And I firmly believe their guidelines and approvals should be respected. The investment in historic properties helps preserve Newport's tax base, architectural legacy, and long-term vitality. So sensitive, high-quality development strengthens Newport. It does not weaken it. I do believe this has been scrutinized and revised and is appropriate, and I respectfully encourage that we proceed approving this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Richard.
I have no questions.
Just briefly, Mr. Richards, what's your current address?
17 Chestnut. I'm 2 doors away.
And what is your professional career?
I'm in real estate. I'm a realtor and a real estate developer.
Okay. Do you know what the applicable CRMC standards are to this project?
No, I do not know all of them, but I do know that this has been approved by many other organizations, and the CRMC standards may be seeking a variance for that. Clearly, other properties have different foundations and have had different coverages and distance from the water, as we saw earlier. And so whether or not that is the sole reason this property is not approved, I don't know. But yeah.
So I think the answer to my question was no, you are not aware of the applicable CRMC standards for
Correct,
this
yeah.
project, correct?
that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Richards. Chris Dunn?
I'm Chris Dunn. I live 4 houses up on Chestnut Street, 13 Chestnut. I use that public access a ton with my sons and dog year round, so I know the property pretty well. I'm a registered architect. I love the Trip House, honestly, but you could argue that the Trip House, as it stands right now, is an anomaly on Washington. So I think the design that the team put forward is actually, really thoughtful. I think it's more in scale with the street. But really, tonight we're kind of talking about the impact on the coastal resource. And honestly, I think the stormwater system and the native buffer, as opposed to all lawn, which you see on most of the other properties, is a huge positive coastal resource. So I want to state that I'm in support of the project. That's it.
Thank you.
I have no
Okay.
questions.
No questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dunn. Andy Salem? Mr. Salem.
How are you? My name is Andy Salem. My family and I own 96 Washington Street, the 2 doors down from the Trip House, the one that was recently renovated. Thank you for having me. I'm sure everyone here appreciates your service, and I'm sure at times it can feel thankless. So thank you for all you do for the town. I do not know Bill and Lisa Rue well at all. We've talked no more than a few minutes on the phone. I applaud the Rues for what you've done with the Trip House. You've improved Washington Street. You've increased the value of all of our homes, and you've increased revenue for the town. I've talked to Pete Denton a lot, my next door neighbor. My wife and I put our hearts and, quite frankly, way too much of our life savings into the renovation of Washington Street. And Pete was terrific throughout the process. I hope we all spend years together getting to know each other as good neighbors should. I have no objections to the Ruse project, and I hope you will allow them to proceed. I assure you that this is the last place I want to be tonight. I have zero desire to put myself in the middle of this feud, and I'm assure you I'm doing so against the very smart wishes of my wife. However, having gone through a recent renovation of a historic home, I felt I must speak because when someone opposes you on this island, there is often no one to support you, even when it's the right thing to do. And there is precedent on probably every street in town. I've experienced that firsthand on Washington Street, whether it is the eyesore that is the Newport casino site, Sweetberry Farm, the people who made me keep broken windows and doors without ever seeing them in my historic home, only to have me cover them with aluminum storm windows that look ridiculous. The Ruse have done an amazing job on the Trip House when no one else would. The house that they are proposing is beautiful, tasteful, fitting, and none of my business because it's their property. For the good of the town, the state, the country, please respect that right. I'll leave you with 2 other thoughts. Towns either grow or die, and there's no third direction. No one talks about money in the 2 hearings that I've been here. Excluding lost revenue over the last 5 years, the opportunity cost, excluding the hundreds and hundreds of man hours this feud has cost the town and the state, let's keep the math simple. New home will probably generate about $30,000 in real estate taxes. Those taxes go up 2 to 3% a year. That's $700,000 to $800,000 in tax revenue over 20 years. It certainly doesn't include the Taylor Swift tax. It's one house. One house. You could pave all of Washington Street for that. And I'm sure the one thing we all can agree on in this room is how badly it needs it. You could pay teachers more. You could do a lot with that money. Lastly, I find it ironic that the pride of Newport and our largest attraction are mansions, which I'm sure someone objected to prior to being built. Maybe in 150 years, people can be here to debate a new owner who wants to rebuild the new house. But until then, the house will be just another pretty house on the point. And I can't say for certain, but my guess is old man Tripp would much rather live in the new house than the one he left behind. Let the man build his house. And I hope we can all get together as neighbors and salute the great job when it's done. I have nothing against my neighbors, just a different opinion. To the town, I hope you will make an effort to streamline these processes going forward. Thank you again for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Salem.
I
Mr.
don't have
Lynch?
any, I have no questions.
Mr. Park?
Just one question, Mr. Salem. Are you familiar with the applicable regulations for the
Yes.
CRMC for consideration tonight?
I am the specific ones relating to the minutia of building a new house on that property. No. However, if you will allow me to comment.
I can't stop you, but I think the answer to my question was no.
Yeah. Look, with all due respect to the process of two things. One, redoing a new home, redoing a historic home. It is a nightmare, right? And all you hear about in this town is affordable housing, affordable housing. If I added it all up, and I assure you I have, it cost me well over $100,000 before we even put a shovel in the ground on the historic home that I did. And it was very similar. It was barely standing. It should have been torn down. It was much like the Tripp house. It's a disgrace what the town puts people through to renew historic homes. But you know what? We do it for the love of it. Got to admit, it sucked a little bit of the joy out of it, right? As far as new houses and stuff, as far as new things in building new things relating to the CRMC, I'm in the process of building a dock, right? And the people at the CRMC have been terrific. They've been wonderful. They're really responsive. They give you honest answers. They've been wonderful, right? The dock, right? And we had to deal with the Friends of the Waterfront. We had to deal with the Waterfront Commission. I had to write a letter to the Wampanoag Indians. I had to talk to the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to put in a dock, right? That dock at mean low water, which will be 5.5 feet deep at mean low, will be about 10 feet above the surface of the water, right? All for the benefit of eelgrass. I get it. That's your priority. Someone's going to fall off it and die. So I am somewhat familiar with some of the CRMC's regulations, and it doesn't always make them right. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Salem. Thomas Dupree?
Good evening, sir. Thomas Dupree. I've lived in Newport for maybe, 10 or 12 years. And currently, although I live on the opposite side of town in a historic district, I do spend quite a bit of time in the Point. It's beautiful. And I've spent time between Van Zandt Pier, Battery Park, the Tripp House, and up to the Causeway. Usually walk my dog around there. I really enjoy looking at all the different architecture. There's everything from inns to churches to big homes I think some of these folks behind me might own. And they're all beautiful. And a lot of times I stopped at the top of, and I've never met these folks before, I stopped at the top where that chain is and looked down and said, wow, this is a beautiful piece of property. In fact, I looked at it maybe 5 or 6 years ago, thinking what a beautiful piece of property. And I've seen it get better and better over the last 5 years since they've owned it. And when I was, you all read Newport Buzz and all these other things. When I was looking at their plan, I thought, wow, this is perfect. This is so beautiful. It's frankly smaller than I think what a lot of people would have desired and probably could have justified when you look at the neighbors and the surrounding area. They've done a remarkable job. And I've been through the HDC before. And like this gentleman over there, you kind of grinding your teeth when you're going through it, but they're nothing if not thorough. And the fact that these folks have been approved by the HDC is accolades to their team. So I am here to speak in support of it. I don't live in the neighborhood. I enjoy it. I enjoy all the architecture in there. And as a Newport resident, I can just see this adding so much more to it. And although I guess it's not a scientific thing, when I've walked along the street, I've seen landscapers along there. They mow right up to the edge of the coastal feature. They spread fertilizer right up to the edge of the coastal feature. The fact these folks are putting in a buffer, that's great. That seems like common sense would say that'll improve what's there today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dupree. Mr. Lynch?
I don't have any questions for Mr. Dupree.
Parks?
None for me. Thank you.
Thank you
Thank you,
very
sir.
much. And our final public comment comes from Kate Greenman.
Hello. My name is Kate Greenman, and I was the realtor for the Ruse when they bought, but I was also the realtor for one of the objectors. So maybe you could say I'm Switzerland. I don't have skin in the game for either party, but I do believe that, and I won't repeat because all the other people were so eloquent before me, but I believe that CRMC should grant them a variance. And I don't know, to preempt your question, the specific rules, but I do know that when you're asking for a variance, you can't obey all the rules based on the size of the lot. And so I'm hoping CRMC will see that they've been very sensitive in the way they've presented their application and be the final approval, because they have been approved by everyone that they need to, even though they're being appealed. Thank you very much, respectfully.
Ms. Greenman, could you just wait? Mr. Lynch?
I don't have any questions for Mrs. Greenman.
I do have one.
Shoot,
You are not a 200-foot abutter, is that correct?
I am not.
Thank you.
Okay. Before we have the brief final comments, I want to ask the CRMC staff if, based upon the matters that you've heard in the three hearings, if you have anything you wish to add to your report, or if anything has impacted any of the provisions of your report. Amy? Thank you. Yep, I have a copy. Thank you. Okay. Mr. Lynch.
Thank you very much, Mr. Krieger. I'm going to be very brief. You're well familiar with the testimony and the facts that were presented over the last several hearings. Just briefly, going to the purpose of the Coastal Resource Management Council, that is to provide for the integration and coordination of the protection of natural resources, the promotion of reasonable coastal dependent economic growth, and the improved protection of life property from coastal hazards. That's the purpose. What I'd ask you to do, Mr. Krieger, is go over Mr. Rabidou's report. because Mr. Rabideau's report is extremely detailed and focuses on all of the criteria and the standards for under the Coastal Resource Management Council Red Book. To summarize, what is undisputed is that this subject property is unique. It has a unique shape, which creates the hardship. It impinges and creates a large setback through the edges of the property. There are no environmental or water quality features on the subject site presently. It's mowed grass to the coastal feature, which is a steel bulkhead. What's going to happen if this variance is granted, the variances are granted, there is going to be an environmental benefit to Newport Harbor. The applicants are going to submit and install a vegetative buffer, a 25-foot vegetative buffer along the western edge of the property. That is going to provide habitat for wildlife, which there is presently none. And it's going to be the only vegetative buffer along the waterfront from the causeway, go down Causeway to the Newport Bridge. This will be the only vegetative buffer along Washington Street in Newport Harbor. I think Mrs. Melchert's presentation in showing how this project was constantly massaged, downsized.
Sorry, whose presentation?
Mrs. Melchert's, the architect. She went through the history of the design of the subject property. This is clearly the minimum variance necessary for the reasonable use and enjoyment of the subject property. This property has been downsized several times. And what is proposed now is a modest size home, which is smaller than the other houses in the area. Mr. Houle, the real estate appraiser, indicated again that that was the case. He testified that there were going to be no conflicts of uses resulting from the proposed dwelling, that this is going to be a benefit to Newport Harbor. It is not going to be a detriment. Some of the additional factors that I think you should consider is the various regulatory agencies that the applicants have had to deal with. They've had to deal with the Newport Historic District Commission. They've had to deal with the Rhode Island Historic Preservation and Heritage Commission. Those entities, those regulatory bodies, have forced the applicant to push the house back further into the coastal buffer. So that's created the hardship. These other historical regulatory agencies have created the need to seek the variance that we're seeking today. So I think that should be, you should consider that to justify the hardship that the applicants are seeking relief from. I think that the testimony that was presented before you justifies the granting of the variances from the coastal buffer and also the building setback. I have nothing further.
Thank you, Attorney Lynch. Attorney Clark?
Thank you. I'll begin where Mr. Lynch did, which is the purpose of CRMC and why we are here on our third hearing night. The enabling legislation that created CRMC in 1971 recognized that the coastal resources of Rhode Island are, quote, immediate and potential value to the present and future development of the state, and that it shall be the policy of this state to preserve, protect, develop, and where possible, restore the coastal resources of the state and the succeeding generations. CRMC is the guardian of the state's coast. Applicant's proposal delivers injury to that coast that CRMC exists to protect. Frankly, this application is not a close call. At the end of the day, this hearing is about a narrow issue. It's whether applicant has satisfied the regulatory criteria necessary to receive his hoped-for variance of 70%. And upon review of the evidence and application to the standards applicable here today, The only conclusion can be that, as staff has already found, applicant has failed to meet those standards as set forth at 1.1.7 of the Red Book. What this application is not, despite public comment, is a rehearing on the HDC. That's happening before the Superior Court. The CRMC considerations overlap, but are different. Additionally, what this application is not is an exercise in saying, look how far we've come. This proposal that's here before CRMC must be evaluated on its own merits, not based off of what may or may not have happened before, and importantly, not based off of what may or may not have occurred or be occurring on neighboring properties. This is not zoning. Applicant's desired outcome is clear. He's looking to cram a second house onto the same lot where a pre-existing historic home exists and has long existed. At the very fundamental level, applicant cannot show that he's suffered an undue hardship that requires a grant of this request. There has been no showing, and the regulations do not support entitlement to what would be a novel creation of a second house on this lot. The historic property was purchased knowingly, which contained a historic home in a historic neighborhood, in a historic city, located alongside Type 2 high scenic value waters. And then a renovation was done of this historic house. Applicant's statement in his supporting documents that the trip house is, quote, functionally obsolete is simply not true and belied by the record evidence. The house, which as staff found was offered for rent for $16,000 a month before applicant even purchased it, has since received a gut renovation. The record evidence, particularly as contained in Ms. Melkert, the architect's emails to CRMC, makes clear that the applicant simply desires a house of a certain size and has no interest in attempting to meet the regulatory requirements that prevent these desires. For these same reasons, the variance request is directly due to applicant's own actions and therefore must fail. The property is already put to a reasonable use and one consonant with its zoning, that of a single-family historic home. Applicant could enjoy this renovated historic home with a new dock and not need to seek his variance, which means that this request for variance is solely due to applicant's own actions who willingly purchased a home within CRMC's jurisdiction. Applicant cannot and has not shown that his request for buffer and setback relief is due to any reason other than the size of the proposed house. Similarly, applicant has failed to establish that there is any unique hardship. The size of the lot, where they discuss how it creates this jut out, which causes the radiused corners for the coastal feature, is because a barge was added to the property. The property's bigger than it already was. Because a barge was crashed into the property in the 50s. The property is bigger than it already was. This gave him relief, not hardship. As staff noted, this application and the variance request do not meet the standards of the Coastal Resources Management Plan. The Type 2 waters on which this property sits are, per the CRMP, those with, quote, high scenic value that support low intensity recreational and residential use. Applicant's plan would stamp out the scenic value of that property. It would place, for the very first time, a house that sits nearly 50 feet above sea level in a site setting that would occlude the public's centuries-long view of Newport Harbor from the public right-of-way of Washington Street. The applicant did not, because they cannot, provide any rationale or evidence for how construction of a second home maintains or restores scenic value of this area. As I previously argued, we shouldn't even be here this evening because the other applications and approvals are not final. The HDC certificate is the subject of an appeal. The City Council voted against this application. However, staff here got it right. CRMC should not set a precedent of encouraging cramming new houses into every tooth gap, no matter how small, located along Rhode Island's coastal waterfront. And for those reasons, and for the nearly 700-page record that you have before you, I suggest that you follow the staff's recommendation and deny the variance. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Parks. Mr. Hartman, do you have anything? Okay. All right. Well, thank you everyone for attending. As Mr. Park said, there's quite a lengthy report and file on this, over 700 pages. So we will take all the testimony and exhibits and render a decision. And thank you for your attendance.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Thank you very much.